We have been studied there are 4 special connective tissue types: cartilage tissue, bone tissue, blood tissue, and the lymphatic tissue. The blood is a special connective tissue that develops from intermediary embryonic cells. Intermediary embryonic cells, what we're going to study in chapter 4, in vertebrates, embryo made up of 3 layers, which ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. From the middle layer, blood tissue develops like an origin. A kind of question maybe in ministry exam about the origin of structures, like origin of blood tissue is embryonic intermediary cells. It's composed of cells, plasma, and protein substance which transform into fibers. But we before study all types of connective tissue are contain cells, plasma, or matrix, and fibers. But in blood tissue there is no fibers but contain proteins which has ability to transform into fibers when blood clotting, means blood coagulation, occurs. The blood constitutes to 7 to 8 of the healthy adult human body weight, which is about 70 kilograms, and the human body contains about 5 to 6 liters of blood. In a general classification, there are 3 main types of cell in blood tissue: the red blood cells or erythrocytes, white blood cells or leukocytes, blood platelets, and thrombocytes. Red blood cells are also called red blood corpuscles because they lose their nucleus when they become mature. In mammals, including humans, red blood cells appear as biconcave discs, biconcave like in that form, with no nuclei. We need this detailed information to compare the red blood cells with white blood cells, which is a common type of question which is asked about the blood in ministry exam. One exception to this prototype is the red blood cells in camel, because they also lack nucleus but the shape of cell different, which is biconvex like in that form. The diameter of red blood cells in humans to 5.6 to 8 micrometer. The size of the red blood cells may change, smaller or bigger in some diseases or sicknesses like sickle cell anemia has smaller cells. The number of red blood cells in a mature male human about 4 to 6 million cells per cubic microliter of blood, but in female has about less number, about 3.9 or 5.5 million cells per microliter. The number of the red blood cells goes down the normal level in case of anemia. We know anemia is a deficiency of iron or deficiency of hemoglobin or deficiency of red blood cells, which are related. Or it goes up when a person goes to high places. Moving high places about related to less amount of oxygen, the number of red blood cells increase or being exposed to carbon monoxide, which combine with red blood cells but not separate from them easily, so blood need to produce new red blood cells, and number increase in these 2 cases. Going up places exposing to carbon monoxide cause number to increase, and in anemia number of red blood cells decrease. The cytoplasm of red blood cells contain hemoglobin, a globular protein which binds with oxygen to make unstable compound, which combining with hemoglobin and separation from hemoglobin is easy for oxygen. The oxygen is dropped off when it reaches the cells, because hemoglobin capture the oxygen from lungs, drop it off when it reaches the cells, and then replace it with carbon dioxide, means trap the carbon dioxide, also unstable compound, and leave the carbon dioxide in lungs again. The average, so we can say the function of hemoglobin is to transport oxygen and carbon dioxide in blood. Also same function for red blood cell. which transportation of oxygen in body. The average life cycle of red blood cells in human is about 120 days. Their life cycle is shorter because they have no nucleus. So any cell without nucleus lifespan is short, according to white blood cells. Every second, 2.5 million new cells enter the bloodstream to compensate the equal number which has got worn out during the same time. Means each 1 second 2.5 million cells broken down and new cells are produced. The big macrophages, we study cells which have ability of phagocytosis from conductive tissue cells. In liver, in spleen or red bone marrow, devour means phagocyte the dead red blood cells, but the necessary materials again reuse it. So all the detail about red blood cells, we need them to compare the red blood cells especially with white blood cells. White blood cells are real cells. Real cells means they have nucleus in their cells, they have cell nucleus and the living cell contents. They also have which red blood cells lose their nucleus after they become mature. They also have capability of, like amoeba, moving, means we said the shape of red blood cells biconcave or biconvex, while white blood cells, they are amoeboic shape. It means they have no a constant shape. The number of white blood cells in adult human is 5,000 to 11,000 per microliter of blood, which we talk about the red blood cells about millions, 4 to 6 in male, 3.9 or 5.5 for female. The ratio of white blood cells to the red blood cells approximately 1 to 700, and if there are 1 white blood cells, 700 red blood cells. 700 times there are more red blood cells in human body than white blood cells. The number of white blood cells in children increase or more than in adults, because the children are more exposed to the harmful germs or microbes in environment, so they need more defense for their body. So the number of white blood cells are more in newborn infants. There are approximately 16,000, what we said in adults about 5 to 11,000 white blood cells in microliter of blood. Many changes to the number of white blood cells happen. Special cases of sickness, when there are viruses or bacteria or germs in case of any disease, especially contagious disease, number of white blood cells until destroying all the viruses or bacteria or harmful substance, but as the disease passes, the number back to the normal number again. The white blood cells are classified into 2 main groups, which we not classify the red blood cells, but classification just about the white blood cells. The first group is granular leukocytes or granular white blood cells. The cytoplasm of this type of white blood cells contain granules. Granules mainly means ribosomes. So when we see ribosome, we really remember the function of proteins. So their cytoplasm contain what? A lot of granules in their cytoplasm, which we call them ribosomes. Often lobed nuclei, maybe 2 lobes or 3 lobes, their nuclei. There are 3 types of granular leukocytes distinguished by their coloring. Mainly the animal cell to be observed under the microscope, they color it by special chemical substances. So they classified according to which kind of chemical substance help us to see this kind of cell under the microscope. So if it can be seen by using neutral substance, we call the neutrophils, by acidic substance acidophil, or alkaline basic substance basophils. 3 type of what? Granular leukocytes. Second type of leukocyte or white blood cells are non-granular leukocytes. The cytoplasm of this type white blood cell does not contain granules, meaning they have homogeneous, a clear cytoplasm. and and the cell nucleus is also not lobed, means one big spherical nucleus, especially for monocytes. There are two types of granular leukocytes, lymphocyte and the monocyte. So if you compare granular and non-granular leukocytes, the first difference, granular leukocytes have granules in their cytoplasm, while non-granular leukocytes, they have no granules. For the second difference, granular leukocytes have lobed nuclei. In non-granular, there is no nucleus, is not lobed. For granular leukocytes, there are three types: neutrophil, acidophil, and basophil, while in non-granular leukocytes, only two: lymphocytes and monocytes. The white blood cells play a very important protective role against the infections. About the function of white blood cells, granular or non-granular, similar function. They perform their function outside the bloodstream, so they can cross the blood vessels and move between cells like in loose connective tissue. After they enter the loose connective tissue, look for viruses or bacterial germs to kill them and come back again to the blood. The white blood cells, how they are different in structure or appearance, but their function is same: defensive or protection of body against diseases. The third type of cells in our blood platelets, are small, spherical or oval colorless discs with no nucleus. The blood platelets are found in mammals. Their counterparts in the vertebrates, the lower class in the evolution ladder, such as in birds and amphibians, bigger in size, what we said small, spindle-like, how we said spherical or oval, and with cell nucleus. And this time we call them thrombocytes. Means blood platelets for mammals, but thrombocyte for birds and amphibia. How they are different? About their size, cell shape, and presence of nuclei. Three main differences between blood platelets and thrombocytes. It is believed that they serve the same function of the blood platelets, as blood platelets and thrombocyte have same function but in different organisms. The diameter of blood platelets is 2 to 5 micrometers, which is smaller than even in red blood cells, but the largest cells are white blood cells. The average lifespan of the blood platelets in humans about 9 to 10 days. For red blood cells, we said 120 days. For platelets, 9 to 10 days. But when we compare for white blood cells, we use their life is longer, because some of them can remain in human body for until human die for 40 or more years. The big macrophages devour, phagocyte the blood platelets in the liver, spleen, and bone marrow, which we talk the same locations about the red blood cells. The blood platelets serve the function of releasing thromboblastin enzyme, which plays a very important role in blood coagulation or blood clotting. So the function of thrombocyte and function of blood platelets is to produce thromboplastin to help blood coagulation, and also secrete serotonin, which helps the contraction of the small blood vessels or microscopic blood vessels, which we call them blood capillaries. Blood plasma is the intercellular substance of blood tissue. What we studied, the cells of blood tissue, the intercellular substance of blood tissue, we call it blood plasma. It's pale yellow color. Why? Because what give red color to the blood is red blood cells. Homogeneous liquid and can be obtained by hemofiltration. Hemo means blood, filtration means separation of big particles from small one. It makes up the 55% of the total blood volume. What water makes about 90% of that one. Like blood tissue, by hemofiltration we separate into blood cells and blood plasma. Blood plasma about 55% but also this 55%, about 90% of it H2O, water. The remaining 10% is proteins, hormones, enzymes, non-organic salts, glucose, etc., wastes, different substances. Lymphatic tissue is a liquid is collected out of the tissues. The tissues, a group of similar cells, and contain what? Blood vessels which transport nutrient materials to the tissue. But as material goes from blood to the tissue, each time food or any material, some amount of blood plasma also passes to the tissue. But this material passes to the tissue, never come back in same way. So there are another kind or another system in our body which consists of closed-ended vessels. We call them lymphatic vessels. They collect intracellular substance from between cells out of tissues. So the intercellular substance absorbed by blood vessels, we call it lymph. The lymph is similar to the blood plasma in composition because the same material which passes from blood to the tissue, from tissue back to the lymphatic vessels. Except that protein content is less. Differences between lymph and blood plasma. Its blood coagulation is slower. Why? Because they said these proteins which found in blood can transform into fibers to help in blood clotting. So less protein, less fiber, slower coagulation, and soft blood coagulation. The lymph mainly contains lymphatic cells, which we call them lymphocytes, kind of white blood cells, vary in number according to the lymphatic node, which is a cross point of lymphatic vessel in the passage of lymphatic vessel through which lymph passes. So in this passageway between two lymphatic vessels, a swelling happens. We call it lymphatic node. This lymphatic node contains high amount of lymphatic cells. So when material passes through this part, it's filtrated and cleaned from the germ cells.